Hey ladies, it's Anita here, and I'm back again with episode 7 of The Messy Middle. On this podcast, what we really focus on is one mom's journey to be able to build a profitable business. And what does that look like? I like to be able to celebrate on this channel. I like to be able to celebrate wins. I like to be able to honor other people that are doing great things in the marketplace. I like to really be able to share the things that are tough for me, because they're probably tough for some of you, and how I overcame some of those things. In this space these days, there's never been greater opportunity for us to be able to build online businesses, but it also can feel kind of overwhelming. So let me go ahead and set a little bit of a backstory for this podcast episode, kind of why it's near and dear to my heart and what I'm going to do to be able to help you take those next steps forward. So one of the things that I noticed in my corporate career, I had a team of people around me that were helping me. I had like an IT team. I had peers that I could talk through challenges with, like all of the things. I had bosses that were depending on me, and then the driving force to be able to do a good job. Like those were things that were really important to me. They weighed on my heart and my environment really heavily. And so they, in a lot of ways, in that corporate environment, man, in order to get that big paycheck, like I had to show up and do the things that I promised I was going to do. Sometimes that can be easier, or can feel like it's easier when we're in the job than when we move over to the entrepreneurial space, when we are responsible to do everything on our own. So instead of feeling overwhelmed, ladies, what I want to do is I want to really equip you with some of the things that you can do in this podcast series of being able to break down whether you have experience as an entrepreneur or not, whether you feel like you have the knowledge of being an entrepreneur or not. I want to go through in this series just some of the common mistakes, some of the pitfalls, some of the wins, some of the tools, that kind of stuff. So today what we're going to focus on are some of the 3 common mistakes. It's not all the mistakes. That is not an exhaustive list that we can do in this short of a podcast episode, but I'm just going to pick out some of the ones that are on the top of mind for me today, what I'm finding when I coach clients, and some of the things that I ran into as I was building my business. So again, we're talking about 3 mistakes that we as entrepreneurs can make when we build a business on our own. So let's go ahead and get started. A couple of things that I want to be able to break down for you is, first and foremost, let's talk about time management. And you might say, okay, Anita, like I know how to schedule my time. I know in my career, like my work schedule was scheduled 6 and 12 and 24 months out. I knew what I was doing quarter by quarter on a regular basis based on events that were happening and all this kind of stuff. But when we pull off and we start to launch a business on our own, sometimes those same skills, I notice this for myself, sometimes those same goal setting skills or those time management skills can be a little bit trickier to navigate, because the thing is like in order to maximize my time management and maximize my productivity, sometimes as an entrepreneur I can get stuck in like too many tasks, or I'm not sure what to do first. So let's break down both of those and consider, because they're kind of a similar thing. So if I have too many tasks, or I'm not sure what to do first, one of the things that I like to do, and especially if I've had, these are kind of like some markers for me. If some time has gone by, like a week or couple of weeks, where I knew I needed to take care of a task and it's not getting done. It keeps showing up on my calendar over and over and over again. So that's one thing that I notice. That's like a reminder, like, hey, Anita, you need to take care of this. One of the other things that I might run into, again, if I have too many tasks or I'm not sure what to do first, is maybe I have a repetitive task that's there, or maybe I just feel stuck, like I don't know what to do. Some of the other things that I run into on a regular basis is the stress of not having to complete a task. For me personally, actually elevates my stress levels. So what I find is like my sleep patterns start to get off, because I maybe wake up in the middle of the night and perhaps worried or just thinking about being able to handle that task. So those are two kinds of examples. So what do we do that? On this channel, I love to give you the practical and the tactical so that you can actually get stuff done and move forward. So one of the things that I love to do on this topic of time management, of too many tasks or what to do first, is sometimes, it could be middle of the night, could be at the beginning of my day, it doesn't really matter. Sometimes I just kind of bleh on the piece of paper, and that means that I just write down, I just kind of throw up and write down or throw up all those ideas over and over and over again. What are the tasks that are running through my head where I'm not really sure what to do? So I write everything down, and I might take however long it takes to be able to get all of those tasks out of my head and onto a piece of paper. The next thing that I'll start to do with that is I will start to prioritize. And prioritize is one of two things for me personally. Like, yes, I need a priority list if I have to do this item first and this item second and this item third. Oftentimes you can ask the question when you have a lot of tasks to do and you need especially when you're just starting your business and you need revenue, what's the one task that's going to push your revenue forward, draw in right fit clients? That's going to be your number one task. So just a little side note on prioritizing. But prioritizing can look differently in a couple different scenarios. And what I mean by that is maybe I have 15 tasks that are on there. So I could list them from priority 1 to 15, but what if I took that another step further? In other words, what if I not just identified those 15 tasks in this example that need to get done, but I also start breaking it down of, am I the one that should be doing this, or should I be finding a resource who is better suited to be able to complete this task, because that's their area of specialized knowledge and it's not my area of specialized knowledge. So number one is I write everything down. Number two is I start to prioritize. And number three is one of the things that I do is I start to identify, is this really a me task, or has it been on my list for so long that I actually need to delegate it out? I need to have someone on my team take care of that, or I need to hire more help to take care of that. Or maybe now when I say hire help, I don't mean like all of a sudden you have to go crazy and find like a new full-time employee. You might not be that in that spot in your business, or you might not even want that anymore. And that's totally fine. What I'm saying is maybe you find a VA to come and help you. Maybe you find someone on Fiverr to go and do a little project for you or something like that. There are so many different ways that we can have other people come into our business to help us with the topic of time management, to start delegating those tasks out. So on that topic of time management, if you have too many tasks to do, or you're not sure what to do first, go back and rewatch the video if you missed any of the steps. I list out 3 options there for you. Okay, the second thing that I want to talk about today is a support system. And so you can kind of wonder, some of us, especially if we have a little bit more of like an introverted personality and you're kind of like, I don't really need a support system. I can totally do all this all on my own, or I know my specialized knowledge, Anita, and I just need to find more clients in that. But I really want to challenge you on that, because there's a couple of things that are going on there. So I believe it's really important to find a support system, and that can be face-to-face, it could be through a group setting, it could be in an online format. There's lots of different ways we can find support systems. We could do a whole podcast episode on that. But what I really want to focus on in this case is really like, why is a support system so important, and then how do you create one if you need one? So a couple of things. Let's break that down a little bit when it comes to the support system. When we are in the corporate space and we are getting paid as an employee, that, don't we know, you may or may not know this, but the mindset that I have as an employee when I'm getting paid as a W-2, and I'll just use that as an example, my mindset can be very, very different than if I'm an entrepreneur. And some of the examples that I've experienced in my life, like for instance, I used to think that The least risky option for me was to go and be an employee of another company and let the big corporation take care of the burden of running the company, I don't know, doing the books, all the things that go along with managing a big company. But now I've actually come to realize, just being around a lot of entrepreneurs, is I actually have come full circle or swung to the other end. Is actually, I believe that to be the most risky option for me now, is to just have all of my livelihood in my family, in my marriage, for my kids, for my own life, my own business tied to one company. And so instead of that, that's a different mindset. As an entrepreneur, I think it's actually less risky to have multiple clients, and your client base could be a small subset of clients that you serve at a high level, and it's, I don't know, a handful or 10 or 12 or something like that. Your client base could be hundreds, it could be thousands, it could be millions. Whatever that looks like for you is fine. But what I've noticed in being in the entrepreneur space is the mindset that I had as an employee, that I wanted somebody else to take care of maybe a bunch of things in my life, and I considered that to be a secure option, versus the mindset that I have as an entrepreneur and believe that it's less risky to have multiple clients feeding into the business and supporting our household and all these kinds of things. So why do I talk about that? The thing is that it's super important when we talk about support systems to get around other business owners that are having some of these same kinds of conversations. And maybe you've noticed this, maybe not. It's okay either way. But I notice in the entrepreneurial community, we are having very different conversations than my counterparts, my best friends that are still in the corporate space full time. And so I realized that I needed to be around other people that were thinking the same way I was thinking, or even challenging me to think differently. They were pushing me and encouraging me and drawing me forward to really grow my mindset, to really expand what I saw as possible, to take my, don't you know that to take my income from where it was in the corporate space, having a big 6-figure income, and then tripling that in my own business, that took an expansion of my mindset. And in order to do that for me, I needed a support system of people around me who could support that goal, who could give me great ideas, who could give me great books and resources to be able to go after, to be able to draw my business in that direction. So those are some of the other things that I believe are so important around a support system. It's the conversations that you have will be different. The mindset that you can have will be very different. The resources that you're going to have access to when you're part of, like I am, when you're part of a high ticket mastermind, the connections that I'm making with people in that support system and that support group for my business are radically different than I had ever been exposed to before. And so those are some different ideas, as a matter of fact, of how you can create support systems. You can find one that already exists. You can create your own. You can do all sorts of different kinds of variety for the support system. You want to find one that I'll just give you a couple of ideas on that. Find a support system where you can't be so transparent, because there's so many people that you get lost in the shuffle and you feel overwhelmed. I would also recommend that you find a support system where you can actually be held accountable, like someone knows your name, and on a regular basis, probably weekly, you're laying out, these are my goals, this is what the steps that I'm going to take to be able to go after that, and someone's holding me accountable to be actually finish those tasks and saying, hey, Anita, you said you were going to do X. Did you do X? And why not? Do you need some help along the way? Something like that. So I think those are really important pieces when it comes to a support system to understand and know, to be able to build a system around yourself. So you can find one, you can create one, whatever works for you. The last element that I'll mention on the support system is I have learned, I didn't always have this perspective, but with my high ticket mastermind, I've noticed this is I actually now want to be around people that think differently than I do on a regular basis, more so than I ever did before. I'm more comfortable in that. I feel more confident in my own skills and my own business to be able to say that now I'm at a spot where I can hang out with other people that think differently than I do, because that's what expands my thinking. So I don't always necessarily any longer want like the same group of friends. Maybe, anyway, I don't necessarily want that same group of people all the time, because in order to do something differently, I have to be able to think a little bit differently. And that I need that. I need the ability of other people to speak into my life, maybe the blind spots I can't see, but also to be able to push me farther beyond my comfort zone of what I've been able to do so far. Okay, the last topic that we're going to talk about just on this podcast episode is staying motivated. So, staying motivated, that can be a tough one, really, genuinely. It can be maybe the hardest one mentally sometimes, especially as an entrepreneur. And, you might be motivated when like you set the goals, or you start off your week, or you start off your year, or there are these markers of like start. What I'm talking about is more specifically is like, how do you stay motivated when it gets hard? How do you stay motivated when you don't want to get up? How do you stay motivated, ladies, when you're like on your period and you're tired, or you're sick, or your kids are sick? Or how do you stay motivated when like your friends are going out and doing something fun and you want to go with them? How do you stay motivated when your stay-at-home mom friends are taking the summer off to hang out with the kids, and you've made a choice to be able to build a business? Like, it's kind of in those things that we need the ability and the help to be able to stay motivated. So there's a couple of things that we can do around the topic of staying motivated. One of those is to figure out your why. You might hear in the online space, or those that are in the entrepreneurial spaces, the why. Let me just kind of clue you in if you're not already familiar with the why. Both from people that I have allowed to speak truth into my life and coach me, and both in my own experience, my why has to be bigger than a dollar amount. So goals, financial goals, are amazing. They're absolutely necessary in our business, especially in our for-profit businesses. But it can't be my only thing that drives me, because the desire to make money might not be what gets me up and gets me motivated on those times when I don't feel amazing, or I have had a couple of nights in a row of insomnia, which this happens to me, and I'm exhausted. I don't want to get up and do the next thing, or show up for a client call, or I'm tired, right? I just need a nap, or I need more than a nap. I need more than that. So number one is I go back to, my why. For me, my why can be things like my being able to care for my kids and model for them what it looks like as an entrepreneur, as a working mom, a wife, a homeschooling mom, a business owner. Like, how do I model what it means to show up when we don't want to? And I love being able to do that. So that's part of my why. The other thing is my husband and I have made commitments to one another. And I have, as some of my, so we might have conversations and say, okay, you're going to do this, I'm going to do this. And I have a core value of actually showing up and being a woman of integrity and following through on what I said I was going to do, or I committed to what I was going to do. I wrote down what I was going to do. And so I have a hard time not showing up. That's part of my why. The other parts of my why could be, as an example, and you want to figure out your own whys. Another example of some of my whys that are just deeper than making money is I have another core value of being a good steward of all that. For me, and you can be wherever you're at, it's okay. I'm always going to talk about God on this channel, and it's okay if you use different language around God. I'm totally good with that, because I'm good with you and I'm good with me. But what I've noticed is I have a real strong core value, and I feel like of all the resources and time and talents and people that God has given to me to steward, I want to be so obedient and so diligent about all those hearts that God has given me to steward in so many different ways. And that includes my husband, my children, my clients, my friends, my family, my church family, all those people. So those are some of the things that work for me. The other thing that I've done recently, I've been reading through a resource. It's a book called Read This or Die by Ray Edwards. So just shout out to Ray there on a phenomenal book. But what he does is he starts to talk about really what motivates me. And as I've been journaling through and doing this exercise of what motivates me, I'm actually really coming up with an excellent list of what positively motivates me and what negatively motivates me. And so I've started listing those things out so I can say, hey, when I do a 30-day sprint of something in my business, then there's this, this win, this positive consequence when I do the thing that I said that I was going to do. The other thing that I haven't typically done in the past is create a negative consequence for not doing the things. For me, oftentimes, because I've shared with some of you, like some of my core values, just not showing up and not doing what I said I could do, oftentimes that's actually enough for me. But one of the things that Ray mentions in the book is he had a goal of losing some weight. And he had said, like, if I didn't, and he was very public about it, and he said, if I don't lose that weight, then I'm going to pay money towards the opposite political party that I follow, which I thought was pretty funny. And so that's actually got my mind thinking of, like, what are the negative consequences if I don't show up and do the things that I said I'm going to do? And so I've started jotting down a list, but these are some ways that I use to be able to help me stay motivated. And so I understand what my why is. And you notice a lot of times what I'm telling you is I journal that out. I write that down so that I make a better connection in my brain to what it is that I'm doing and studying and reading and learning. And it just helps me to actually follow through on the things that I wanted to do. Because don't we know that if it stays in my head, it's just a dream. But when I start writing it down, then it turns into a goal. And then when I consistently start doing it, like Atomic Habits will tell us, then it turns into a habit. And that's what I want. I want habits that I show up and do the things I say I'm supposed to do every single day. So, okay, so wrapping up, we were talking about in this podcast episode some things around time management. We were talking about and giving you some practical tips around building a support system. And then we were talking about and giving you some practical tips around staying motivated. So you're figuring out your own why and figuring out what motivates you. So those are some of the strategies that I like to be able to employ. And just so you know, I want to encourage you, wherever you're at in your entrepreneurial journey, whether that's you're still in a full-time job and you have aspirations, you have a thought, an idea, you have something deep inside your heart. You know that I've spoken about this before on my channel, is I believe that each and every one of us have a God-sized idea and a dream inside of us to be able to build a business. And so if you're at that spot and you're still in your corporate job, I just want to encourage you, just figure out what your next step of integrity is, your next right step to be able to take, and just take one step this week. If you're able to do that, I'd love to be able to hear from you. So post or comment and reply to this podcast episode. I'd love to hear what your one thing is that you committed to do this week. It might even be this month, however that works for you. If you have started your business, I just really want to encourage you, find community of other like-minded individuals. For me, the groups that I was in early on in my entrepreneur journey, I just know that it took me a little time to find that groove of the right group of people for me. Once I joined the High Ticket Mastermind, for me, that's what set it apart. But it was also what their mindset was, what they were talking about, how we were building businesses, how we were building as kingdom entrepreneurs, how we were building our businesses to serve others, not just sell products, those kinds of things. Those were what is important to me. So find what's important to you and then get connected and try it out. And if you need to, it might take a couple of times to try out a couple of groups to find your community, but go after it. We have a community in MySpace as well. If you want to get more information on that, you can go to anitaanello.com and navigate around to some of the resources that are there. There are free resources for you. There's paid resources. There's a whole bunch of ways that I love to be able to serve my community on my website and through this podcast. So ladies, be blessed today. I know that God has great things in store for you, and know that I am always praying for each and every one of you. Have a great day.